The Nuggets' rebuilding efforts began in 1990 with the hiring of coach Paul Westhead. Denver Nugget fans were treated to a lot of offense and very little defense during the 1990-91 season. The team gave up a league-worst 130 points per game, including an NBA record 107 points in one half to the Phoenix Suns one November night in 1990. The Nuggets finished the year 20-62, last in the West. The 1991 offseason would give Nuggets fans a glimmer of hope when they drafted Georgetown center Dikembe Mutombo with the 4th overall pick in the 1991 NBA Draft. Mutombo would give Nuggets even more reason for hope that season as he went on to have a stellar rookie campaign, making the 92 All-Star game and being selected to the NBA All-Rookie First Team. Despite Mutombo's individual success, however, the team struggled, finishing 24-58, resulting in the firing of coach Paul Westhead. During the 1992 offseason, the Nuggets hired beloved ex-player Dan Issel as their head coach. They also acquired a young dynamic power forward named LaFonso Ellis during the 1992 NBA Draft. The Nuggets' rebuilding efforts began to show signs of life during the 92-93 season, as the team would go on to finish the year 36-46. The 93-94 Nuggets would end up being the highlight of the Denver Nuggets franchise during the 1990s. The team enjoyed its first winning season in 4 years and ended up making the playoffs as the 8th seed, where they faced off against the heavy favorite Seattle Supersonics. The Nuggets would go down 2-0 before fighting back to win the series in 5 hard-fought games, becoming the first ever 8 seed to defeat a 1 seed in the playoffs, completing one of the greatest upsets in NBA history. The Nuggets would go on to face the Utah Jazz in the second round, where they would go down 3-0 before fighting back to force a Game 7. The Nuggets were unable to withstand the steady attack of Carmelo and the Utah Jazz, losing their final game. The Nuggets would pick up Michigan guard Jalen Rose with the 13th pick in the 94 draft and head into the coming 94-95 season with more momentum than they had in a while. Despite Mutombo winning his first Defensive Player of the Year award, the season ultimately wasn't what many had hoped it would be. Coach Dan Issel resigned 34 games into the season, citing the duties and pressures of the job were making him into something he didn't want to be. The Nuggets would finish the year with a 41-41 record, claiming the 8th seed in the West. They would play against the San Antonio Spurs, where they were swept. The following offseason, the Nuggets acquired Alabama power forward Antonio McDyess via the 1995 NBA Draft. While McDyess was a bright spot for the team during the 95-96 season, playing well enough to earn a spot on the All-Rookie team, the team as a whole struggled to find its footing. Power forward LaFonso Ellis spent nearly half the year sidelined by injury, and come March, the team found itself in the middle of controversy when leading scorer Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf refused to stand for the national anthem, ultimately earning him a 1-game suspension from the league. Abdul-Rauf agreed to stand for the anthem moving forward, but the damage was done, and many fans around the Nugget organization were unhappy with his decision. He would go on to miss the final 15 games of the season with a foot injury. The Nuggets finished the year 35-47. The 1996 offseason was headlined by the loss of Dikembe Mutombo during free agency. Mutombo and his agent reportedly wanted a 10-year contract, something the Nuggets front office wasn't willing to offer. Because of this, Mutombo would ultimately go on to sign with the Atlanta Hawks, where he would earn 4 All-Star nods and 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards over the next 5 seasons. After losing Mutombo, the Nuggets would go on to trade the previous season's leading scorer, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and second-year guard Jalen Rose that offseason. The 1996-1997 Nuggets season was the beginning of their plummet to rock bottom. The team would finish the year 21-61. The 1997-1998 season saw the Nuggets officially reach rock bottom, displaying one of the worst teams in NBA history.
The record is like, I think, 9-62.
The team would post a wretched 11-71 record. With nowhere to go but up, the Nuggets would slowly begin rebuilding the franchise during the summer of 1998. Changes were made both on the court and in the front office as ex-head coach Dan Issel returned to the Nuggets as president and GM, and Mike D'Antoni was hired for his first NBA head coaching job. Roster improvement would begin with the 1998 NBA Draft, where the Nuggets selected Kansas forward Raef LaFrentz with the 3rd overall pick. During the season, the Nuggets slowly upgraded their roster by trading for Lakers guard Nick Van Exel and second-year player Chauncey Billups of the Toronto Raptors. They would also pick up free agent Antonio McDyess, who they had previously traded away during the 1997 offseason. The team ultimately finished the lockout-shortened season with a record of 14-36, resulting in the firing of Coach D'Antoni. General manager Dan Issel would name himself head coach prior to the 1999-2000 season. The team showed signs of improvement throughout the year, ultimately finishing with a 35-47 record. The Nuggets appeared to turn a page early on during the 2000-2001 season, jumping out to a 26-18 mark. Antonio McDyess led the way for the Nuggets early on, averaging nearly 21 points per game and 12 rebounds per game, making his first and only All-Star game of his career. Despite the hot start in McDyess' career year, the Nuggets struggled down the stretch, winning just 9 of their final 28 games, finishing with a 40-42 record and missing the playoffs for the 6th straight year. The 2001-2002 Nuggets season got off to a rocky start when McDyess went down during the preseason with a knee injury. The injury would ultimately limit him to only playing in 10 games that year. Coach Dan Issel resigned during December of 2001 after making a racial slur towards a Hispanic fan. Issel was replaced by Mike Evans, who ultimately was let go at the conclusion of the season after the Nuggets posted a 27-55 record. The 2002 offseason saw the Nuggets part ways with big man Antonio McDyess, as he was sent to the Knicks in exchange for Marcus Camby, Mark Jackson, and the draft rights to Nene. The 2002-2003 season was another one to forget, as the Nuggets posted a 17-65 record, finishing last in the West. The 2003 offseason would usher in a new era in Nuggets basketball when they selected Syracuse's Carmelo Anthony with the 3rd overall pick in the 2003 draft. Carmelo would go on to make an immediate impact, posting a stellar rookie season where he averaged just over 21 points per game. The Nuggets would break their 8-year playoff drought by earning the 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs, where they were defeated by the league MVP KG and the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games. During the 2004-2005 season, the Nuggets would go through a coaching fiasco after early season struggles. The Nuggets would end up with coach George Karl, who would post a 32-8 record to end the year. The Nuggets would finish with a 49-33 record, good enough for the 7th seed in the playoffs. They would lose out in the first round to the Spurs in 5 games. During the 2005-2006 season, Denver Nuggets would post a 44-38 record under head coach George Karl, which earned them a 3 seed in the Western Conference playoffs. Unfortunately, the Nuggets would again fall in the first round, this time to the LA Clippers in 5 games. The 2006-2007 season was an action-packed one, beginning with a fight that broke out during a December visit to Madison Square Garden. The brawl started when Marty Collins tackled J.R. Smith on a breakaway layup. The fight was alleged to have been instigated by New York coach Isaiah Thomas, who supposedly warned Melo to stay out of the lane. Nene, Melo, and J.R. were all given multi-game suspensions for their behavior during the brawl. 3 days after the mayhem in New York, the Nuggets would acquire Allen Iverson via a trade. Iverson gave the Nuggets an elite scorer to pair with Melo. Both Melo and Iverson were averaging 30-plus points per game at the time of the acquisition, and many believed the Nuggets would make a real playoff push. However, the two All-Stars didn't gel as well as some had hoped, and the Nuggets ultimately finished the year 45-37, losing in 5 games to the San Antonio Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. Additionally, Marcus Camby was named Defensive Player of the Year. The 2007-2008 season was when the AI and Melo experiment got to play out for a whole year. The team ultimately finished the year with a 50-32 record, which earned the Nuggets the 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs. 50 wins would be the highest win total for an 8th seed in playoff history. The Nuggets, however, were swept out of the playoffs in the first round by the LA Lakers. This was the 5th consecutive season they exited the playoffs after the first round. The 2008-2009 season was the most illustrious season the Nuggets saw in years. The season began with a stir, trading Allen Iverson to Detroit for Chauncey Billups. The trade would prove to be beneficial as the Nuggets would go on to post a 54-28 record, securing 2nd in the West. The Nuggets would end their 5-year streak of first-round exits by defeating the New Orleans Hornets in 5, including a game where the Nuggets won by 58, tying the record for most lopsided victory in a playoff game. They would then go on to defeat the Mavs in 5 in the second round of the playoffs. The Nuggets season would ultimately come to an end at the hand of the eventual NBA champion, the LA Lakers, who defeated them in 6 games in the Western Conference Finals. The Nuggets carried momentum from the previous season's playoff push into the 2009 to 2010 regular season, where they saw Melo, Billups, and George Karl selected for the 2010 All-Star Game. Unfortunately, George Karl was diagnosed with neck and throat cancer shortly after the All-Star break, causing assistant coach Adrian Dantley to take over the coaching duties. The team struggled down the stretch, but still finished with a 53-29 record, obtaining their 3rd consecutive 50-win season and earning the 4th seed in the playoffs. Denver's season ended in the first round, losing to the Jazz in 6 games. In 2011, the Carmelo Anthony era came to an end in Denver. After many rumors and months of speculation, Melo was traded to the New York Knicks in February of 2011. The trade sent the likes of Chauncey Billups, including several other Nuggets, to the Knicks for Wilson Chandler, Danilo Gallinari, Raymond Felton, Timofey Mozgov, Kosta Koufis, New York's first-round pick in the 2014 draft. The Nuggets would finish the season with a 50-32 record, losing in the first round of the NBA playoffs to the Oklahoma City Thunder. In the 2011 draft, Nuggets drafted Kenneth Faried. Faried would make the all-rookie first team, averaging nearly 8 rebounds a game. In March of 2012, Nuggets traded Nene for JaVale McGee. The Nuggets would finish 38-28, losing in the first round to the LA Lakers 3-4. The story of the Nuggets' 2012 offseason was the acquisition of Andre Iguodala. The acquisition made them a series contender in many people's eyes, and through much of the regular season, Iggy lived up to the hype, leading the Nuggets to a franchise-best 57-25 record. They would earn a 3 seed in the West, and coach George Karl would go on to win Coach of the Year. The 2013 playoffs were a different story for the Nuggets, however. The Nuggets would lose in the first round to the upcoming Golden State Warriors. This first-round loss would be the 8th in Coach George Karl's 9 seasons in Denver, resulting in his termination as head coach. Major personnel changes were made during the 2013 offseason, as Iggy chose to join the Golden State Warriors via free agency, and Brian Shaw was brought in to replace coach George Karl. Brian Shaw would be fired in March of 2015. With the loss of Iggy and coach Karl, Nuggets would struggle, posting a record of 36-46, their worst record in 11 years. In the 2014 draft, the Nuggets drafted Gary Harris, Jusuf Nurkic, and Nikola Jokic. Jokic would not play throughout the 2014 to 2015 season, and the Nuggets finished with the record of 30-52. Nuggets fans were hopeful when they drafted Emmanuel Mudiay with the 7th overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft. Due to the legal troubles and eventual departure of starting point guard Ty Lawson, Mudiay was immediately given the keys to new head coach Michael Malone's offense. The Nuggets rebuild would begin to take shape with solid performances out of young players such as Mudiay, Gary Harris, and Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets would finish the season 33-49, placing 10th in the West. The 2016 offseason would see the Nuggets pick up even more young talent via 3 first-round picks in that year's draft. The Nuggets draft was headlined by the selection of Kentucky's Jamal Murray with the number 7 overall pick. The Nuggets' young core would continue to show signs of improvement, led by the play of Nikola Jokic, who emerged as their center of the future. The team would finish the year 40-42, 1 game out of the 8th spot in the West. The 2017 to 2018 Nuggets season was again led by a balanced scoring attack. Center Nikola Jokic would emerge as a future star, while players such as Gary Harris and Jamal Murray would continue to take steps forward. 2015 draft pick Emmanuel Mudiay was traded early in 2018 after struggling for much of the year. The Nuggets would finish the year with a 46-36 record. They would face off against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the final game of the regular season, with the 8th spot in the playoffs on the line. The Nuggets would lose the game, missing out on a playoff spot for the 5th consecutive season. All of this leads us to now. The Nuggets currently sit atop an incredibly deep Western Conference. Jokic is having an all-star caliber season, and the Nuggets' hopes of breaking their string of 5 straight missed playoffs seem strong. Although the odds of beating out the Warriors this postseason seem slim, the future in Denver looks bright with their young core of talented players.